So good morning, everyone. We have Grant Preston here with us representing the CRG. John Blackman is here representing the Board of Supervisors.
Can you hear me, Jim?
I can hear you, John.
Okay, I got a whole new computer system, so.
I can hear you and I can see you. So we were watching everything you do. All right. Let's get started by having a roll call vote to open the meeting. Dave Demore.
Here.
Joe Semyon. Todd Rulison. Todd, I know you're there, but you can't hear. Okay. Jane Kelly.
Here.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Here.
Joe Gillis.
Here.
Tim Munn.
Here.
All righty. Minutes from our November 10th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those? If they're okay, would someone make a motion to accept those? Jane Kelly makes the motion to accept. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Tim Munn. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote to approve the minutes of the November 10th meeting. Dave Demore.
Aye.
Joe Semyon. Todd Rulison. Jane Kelly.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Moving on to the budget report, which was attached to the agenda that I emailed out to everybody. On the revenue side of the budget report, we received revenue from the sale of the transformers out at Tryon at around $2,700. We had some investment earnings. We received the $10,000 reimbursement from the county for its for the O&M work that we do out at Tryon. Those totaled $12,840. On expenditure side was salary. There's 3 legal bills that we will be approving later in this meeting. And then there was $12,642 of expenses out at Tryon, which are summarized on the second page. There was electricity charges at the wastewater treatment plant. An action that you're going to approve later in this meeting to the annual Speedies permit that we have with New York State DEC. Another invoice of $500 for updating the Tryon Technology Park brochure, which I'll talk about again later in the meeting. And then the $500 bill that you approved at your last meeting to have Tom's Electric go out and cut all of the electrical wires from the old poles so that we could remove the old electrical system. And then this was what you approved at your last meeting, and we'll talk about it again further. A payment of $6,225 for the cost of video inspecting that section of sewer line out at Tryon, and the $5,000 payment that was approved to the Fulton County Soil and Water Conservation District for the work that they performed at Tryon over the last 6 months or so. So that is the budget report. Any questions on that report? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to accept that budget report?
I'll make a motion, Jim.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll make it, Jim. Joe.
Joe Gillis, thank you, Joe. Any final questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll roll call vote on accepting the budget report. Dave Demore.
Aye.
Joe Semyon. Todd Rulison.
Aye.
Jane Kelly.
Saw her mouth move.
Aye.
Sorry, Jane. Mike Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Joe Gillis.
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. We'll come back when Joe gets on about the monthly bank reconciliations, but I'm pretty sure they're okay. On to other reports. John Blackman, county report, anything to offer this month?
Not a lot. We had our last meeting a couple of weeks ago. We passed the budget at, what was it, $92.2 million. We added 350,000, so we didn't have to increase the tax rate. And we had to use about $350,000. We still got about 15 million in the fund balance. So the department heads did all the work this year. So
Good.
it was the easiest budget we've been through since I've been there. So no capital, hardly any capital projects next year though.
Very good. Any questions for John? Thank you, John. Grant, anything from the CRG standpoint?
Yeah, there is. I'll give you a rundown. As I go through this, if there's questions, I will do my best to answer them. Other than that, I will get you answers. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So on the Tryon Technology Park front, we had a constant contact mailer go out to 400 groups to try to market that site. And then another constant contact mailer went out to 14 individual companies to market that for, further development, obviously leasing and that sort of thing. So waiting to see the results of that. A couple of the building projects, the construction project at 34 West Fulton Street at the offices is complete. We just had NYSERDA sponsor a Green Jobs, Green New York Energy audit there, and we're waiting on results. For the micro enterprise grant program, we're just waiting on a few odds and ends. Some of these businesses need to complete some of the program requirements, but after that, the program will be closed out by the state. No word, I guess, if they're going to extend that at any point in the near future. Some of the initiatives we've got going on is this, the guide for Fulton County, that magazine. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at it, but it is complete. Final printed copies have been received. It looks great. There's an excellent piece on Tryon Technology Park, and we'll be distributing those soon. In fact, I think that's just started to roll out. So look for that shortly. Under the community assistance banner in Gloversville, we're working with the local waterfront revitalization program. There's several projects developing on Main Street, and additionally, we're working with the city of Gloversville and a developer on a larger parcel within the city. Mohawk Valley Working Capital Partner MVED was approved by the EDA for over $2 million in working capital, and the CRG has referred another 4 businesses for financing. So we're busy on that front. Joint marketing campaign strategy has been developed for Northville and Northampton, and it's being reviewed by the communities. Once that strategy is set, the next step is preparation of a cost analysis and job report. So more to follow, I'm sure. Development of Gloversville Merchants Association continues to move forward. The goal there is to help existing merchants and encourage new merchants as well. And then finally, the Downtown Gloversville website, which is downtowngloversville.org, has an updated look, and improvements are being made to that site. Just a few other things I'll touch on here under business marketing and business recruitment initiatives. We're working with the New York State Job Development Authority, documents necessary to complete that approval process to allow the CRG to start lending through the JDA agricultural program. That's targeted to have that in place for the first quarter of 2021. So it's exciting for us. Radio advertising has started. It goes all throughout the capital region. The goal there is to get the word out about opportunities in Fulton County and to find capital region businesses that would like to relocate. I believe that's running primarily on 95.5, and we got a big name in Delilah has recorded a advertisement for us. So we're excited to see what benefits that results in. The New York State Capital Region's New Frontier program is active and running, and just a couple other things. Sorry, We're working on a potential lead for a company that's looking for a larger location. As we all know, that's kind of a scarce commodity. But as that develops, I'm sure Ron will be reaching out and try to facilitate something there. Marketing's always ongoing, of course. Developer relationships are ongoing over here. And then we're working on a lead for an out-of-state company doing their due diligence on buying Fulton County business. Unfortunately, I don't have any more information than that, but I'm sure that will develop as we move forward here. And just putting it out there, our annual meeting is scheduled for December 18th. It'll be held at the incubator and also on Zoom. So if anybody has an interest in joining that, you are more than welcome. I'd be happy to extend the invite. That's it.
Thank you, Grant. Any questions of Grant and then his report? Very good. Thank you, Grant.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to old business, our IDA website. Working again with Emery on that with respect to some narrative to add to the home page. Actually, I just received by email this morning a draft of some language in that regard. So we'll be working with Betsy on that. Scott and I have a meeting with Betsy this Thursday to try to get all of this wrapped up as quickly as we can. So work continues in that regard. With Cushman Wakefield, again, continuing to show buildings at Tryon. Nothing concrete to report, but there is some interest in some of these buildings, and hopefully that interest turns into an offer here at some time in the future. With respect to the lands on the south side of 107, Kara, any updates to offer with respect to where we are in closing on that property?
The status really hasn't changed as far as I've gone back and forth with Paul regarding the status of title. We've again reached out to Stuart Title to see if they can track down this final policy that he's requesting to complete title. But I don't know if he's also reached out to the successor of Carol's abstracting, who prepared the title when you took title to the property. I don't think he's had any luck there because we've reached out to the same people. I've asked him on several occasions to just go ahead and proceed and order the necessary title work so that, I mean, the delays in trying to track this down are the equivalent of doing the search work that I think is trying to be avoided. But in any event, I have not heard back from him. I'll reach back out and see if he's in fact ordered that so that we can proceed and get this wrapped up.
But as far as you know, Kara, that's the only issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what we'll have to, in the absence of being able to track down Carol's abstract's successor and finding that title policy, what now needs to get done?
Nothing.
Okay.
I just need the chairman to sign the transfer documents. They're prepared. I know that there was a new survey done. You had sent me that. They had also sent me that. There is some question as to whether or not they want to use a more modern description. I haven't gotten an answer on that yet.
Okay.
But that's the only other item. But everything is ready to be signed. So, I can make arrangements to get everything to you for signature. So as soon as they get this, we'll be ready. But if they have just ordered it, it's still going to be a couple of weeks because I think just in the industry, everything is backed up as far as title searches go.
So you believe that Paul has ordered a new title search?
I don't know that. That's what I've asked. I said, can we just move forward and order what we need? Because we're either going to be delayed on the search or we're just going to delay ourselves by trying to track this down, which hasn't been successful. And it wasn't successful when we tried to track it down directly through Stewart when the IDA sold to Verio Health.
Right. Okay. Okay. The, hey, Joe,
Good
Semyon?
morning. My blood pressure's down a little bit and my computer's working, so I'm happy. Can we go back to the reconciliation?
Once we finish this one item up, we'll go right back, okay?
Fantastic.
So on this item, edit, we had the original contract or purchase contract called for a closing date at the end of October. We recently authorized extending that date through November. I'm asking for an approval again to extend the closing date through the end of December in hopes that we can get everything wrapped up this month. So I'm asking if someone's willing to make a motion to extend the closing date to December 31 of 2020.
I'd make that motion.
Joe Semyon, is there a second to that? Jane Kelly? Any questions? Roll call vote. Tim Munn,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Jane Kelly, Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
Okay, that motion's approved. Kara, would you follow up with Paul?
Yes.
And if he hasn't, to have him go ahead and get that title search going, if he feels it's necessary?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go back to reconciliation reports. Joe Semyon?
Yes, I received all the documents from Carol Ellis and looked them over and everything was all in order, so.
Very good. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Moving back to item 4, are the sewer line serving the parcel on the south side of 107. At your last meeting, we talked about you authorized having Adirondack Septic go out and video inspect that sewer main to see if there were any problems or issues with it. The previous work that CFI Construction went out and did, where they pressure tested the main, showed inconclusive results. So the next step was to go out and video inspect to see what, if any, problems did exist. And so Adirondack Septic did that work just before Thanksgiving. And what they found were 2 things. One, a large blockage that I sent you folks some pictures of that was in one of the mains. And they removed that blockage and opened up that section of main. And the other 2 things that they determined was that the pipe itself was in good shape. There were no visible cracks or leaks, which was good news. But what they also found was that there was a lot of scaling, mud, and debris that exists throughout the sewer main that could impact the flow of wastewater through that pipe if and when we're ever going to put it back into use. All right. So the cost of doing that work was $6,225. At your last meeting, we had talked about an expenditure of up to $17,000. Well, we didn't come close to doing that. But what Adirondack is recommending is that we go back and still clean out that whole section of pipe, power jet it, and then take a vacuum hose and go and remove all of that debris, all of those twigs, all of that mud, all of that rock, all of that scaling, so that the pipe is back to good condition that would allow for wastewater to flow freely through that pipe. And their daily rates for power jetting and bringing a vacuum truck out there total $2,420 a day. They're guessing that it would take up to 3 days of work for them to power jet that 1,600 feet of water or sewer main and vacuum it out. That would be a total cost of $7,260. I think the key is their recommendation, their opinion is that once you did that, that sewer main would be in working condition and can be put into use. So the good news is that the video inspection showed that the pipe is structurally in good shape, but it needs to be cleaned out. And so the recommendation is to move forward with power jetting and vacuuming that sewer main to get it into working condition at a cost of estimated at $7,260, which is the equivalent of 3 full days worth of work out there. You know, and folks, the understanding that one of the challenges with doing this work is you're out in the fields. It's not like you're going down South Perry Street in Johnstown when you're working on a road. I mean, you're working out in the middle of fields. Sometimes it's muddy, you know, sometimes vehicles have to get pulled by backhoes, you know, to get around. So it's not the easiest of working conditions. Questions, comments?
I think it would be nice to get this thing finally completed. I obviously don't like spending money, but for good things, it's money well spent. But I did have a question at the last meeting about whether the county had anything like a power jet. And I think at that meeting you had said that they would have just a vacuum truck.
Correct.
And I didn't know if there was any way that we could work in collaboration, not tearing it cheap out or anything, but if we could save $3,000 with the help of a county vacuum truck, as long as Adirondack would work alongside with them, then maybe that would save us $3,000. That's my only suggestion.
I can certainly ask, Joe. Okay.
Jim, along that line, doesn't both the cities have power jets for their sewer systems?
I don't know if they have power jets or vacuum trucks. I think that they're vacuum trucks, Joe, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I had one, I missed the last meeting, so I wasn't there. I apologize, but are the folks that are looking to buy this, are they willing to share any of the costs? And did we market the land that there was a sewer system that was fully functional, or was it as is? At the moment, I forget how it was.
The offer, Joe, was contingent on them being able to connect in and utilize this sewer main.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
We have, as a result, and this is what we talked about at your last meeting, in order to realize a $90,000 sale, we have to make sure the sewer line's in working order.
Got you. Okay.
Hey, Jim,
Todd?
any comments on number 2 there, the water infiltration into the sewer main?
Yep.
It looks as though they're suggesting that it be lined.
What their comment is that there were, at certain joints, there is water infiltrating into the pipe. It's not a major issue right now, but it's an issue that affects the capacity of the wastewater pump station. Okay. You know, that pipe, all sewer pipes have a certain capacity. And right now, the amount of infiltration that's going into those pipes, you know, the pipes can handle. But at some point in time in the future, if there was a user on there that was starting to use up a lot of the capacity of the pipe, you know, then you may want to consider doing something to reduce the amount of infiltration and inflow into those pipes. As of today, they're saying not necessary, but it's something that may want to be considered in the future. Okay, every sewer pipe in every community across the country has infiltration and inflow into it. It's been documented down here at the Gloversville Johnstown Wastewater Treatment Plant that probably 30% of the flow that's coming into that plant is not sewer flow, but it's infiltration and inflow through the network of pipes that run through both cities. So it's an issue, but not one that they felt that today that you had to deal with. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
So Jim, well, one more question. So we're going to own this sewer system for forever, or as soon as they take title, they're in control of the sewer system?
The way it's being set up, Joe, is that the sewer main that would run from the pump station on the south side of 107 that takes wastewater and would take it to the pump station on Tryon would be owned by Fulton County Sewer District Number 4 once it's created.
Okay.
The county is in the process now of finalizing its map plan and report. That is the required document that for creating that sewer district. And so that sewer main would be taken over by the sewer district. The pump station that would be on the south side of 107 would be owned by the users on that side of the street. They would not be owned by the sewer district. Okay? So once that sewer district is created, Joe, which hopefully is going to be in the not too distant future, the IDA will transfer ownership of all of that sewer infrastructure at Tryon over to the sewer district for the sewer district to then own, operate, and maintain going forward. Okay?
Okay. And is the sewer district aware of the infiltration problems and all that
Yes.
going forward? Okay.
Yep. Again, the amount of infiltration that's occurring out there was not deemed to be excessive by any stretch of the imagination. Okay?
Okay.
So coming back to the question, the recommendation is to proceed with water jetting and vacuuming that sewer lane at a cost not to exceed $7,260. Is there anyone willing to make that motion? Jane Kelly.
I'll make the motion, Jim.
Todd, I'm going to put you down as a second.
Sounds
All right,
good.
we have Jane as making the motion, Todd seconding that motion to proceed with a not to exceed number of 7260. Any further comments?
We just look to see if we could get some help to,
Oh, yes, I will. Yes, and if they are capable and willing, we would do that, Joe.
right, but if not, I would definitely, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Let's do a roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly.
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Very good. Moving on, we go from dirty sewer lines to the plug sewer main out at Tryon. At your last meeting, you agreed to hire Perrine Contracting to replace that one plug section of sewer main and install 2 new valves. That work is in essence been completed. An issue came up. I emailed you folks last week about it. The new valves that were put in are they're probably 5.5 feet underground. To activate those valves, a wrench needs to be put into the ground and in turn to be able to open and close those valves. That wrench fits inside of a steel pipe that fits over the top of the valve. Well, the existing valve boxes, as they're called, the intent was to reuse those and on the new valves, but they didn't fit. They were too small. So the contractor needed to go purchase 2 new ones, okay, so that they would fit over the new valves. When we wrote this agenda item, we weren't sure of what that cost was going to be. The actual cost is somewhere around $450 for the 2 of them. Okay, so what I'm asking for is a motion to approve a change order with Perrine for it's, and I'm waiting for the final exact number for, it's around $450 to purchase and install these two new valve boxes. Would someone be willing to make that motion?
Jim, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mike.
I second it.
Second, Joe Semyon.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Do you want the ability to go to 500 if it comes in a little higher?
Is that understood? Are everybody comfortable with that? And again, I'm saying the motion says approximately. So if we're within
Yeah.
$30, $40, all right, I'm waiting for that final invoice to come in. So with that understanding, let's take a vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly, Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. The Nexus Renewable Solar Project, the leases have been executed. Just awaiting now, or Nexus is waiting for National Grid's approval of their interconnection. That is expected in mid-January. Once that interconnection agreement is approved, the power purchase agreements between the IDA and these 4 solar LLCs can be finalized and executed. Construction would then commence, and according to them, construction, which hopefully is going to start in February, March, is projected to take about 6 months to complete. So we're continuing to move this project along. Kara, from the sales tax standpoint, where do we stand with that?
We're working on the documents. I reached out to their attorney, asked them, if we're targeting year end, if we could get that on the calendar. So as soon as I hear back from them, I'll let you know. I'm sure everybody's doing this holiday year end thing
Okay.
right now. It's in the works.
All righty. Any questions on Nexus? Moving on, Benjamin Moore, expansion project. Following the documents that are shown on the agenda, there's only 16 that had to be executed to make this happen. Closing was completed. Actually, it was completed yesterday, Kara.
Yes, we got all of the signatures. We received the wire late yesterday. They've sent us insurance. Yep, they sent us everything that is required. So I'm getting those checks out to you today. And it just came late yesterday. And we're putting together the transcript of the package. So they're mailing their original signature pages. So as soon as I get that, I'll get the memos filed, and then I'll get a complete transcript over to your office.
All righty. Benjamin Moore has started construction on its project, and they are going full bore and proceeding with that expansion project, which is great to see. Moving on, as I reported in the budget report, we did complete the process of having all of those transformers from the old electric system removed. And again, the net revenue to the IDA was $2,768. Again, I'd like to thank Chris Stankes from the planning department, who oversaw that whole process and was out there with the contractors, getting those transformers removed and hauled away. So again, this was a double-edged benefit to the IDA. One, it generated a revenue for us, and secondly, it avoided us the cost of having to dispose of these ourselves. So I think that was a good thing that we did. Any questions on that?
We had talked about Chris helping out with that. Is there anything else we need to talk about, or later?
At the moment, Joe, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
With respect to their recent vandalism at Tryon, I've been hounding all involved to, for a decision on whether they're going to reimburse the IDA, the $5,500 that was spent to do those emergency repairs. I finally last week got an email back from the adjuster verifying that he has recommended to NYMER that they reimburse the IDA for those costs. So we haven't seen a check yet, but that confirmation that from the adjuster is certainly a step in the right direction. So hopefully we're going to be receiving a reimbursement for that expense that was incurred. Any questions?
Anything more on the investigation?
I haven't heard a word. Not a word. So, unfortunately.
Jim, that claim is just for the emergency repairs. What about, is there another claim to, I guess, indemnify us? Is that, Tim would know the word better than I would.
To make
Well,
whole.
we, the first thing, yes, this is just to reimburse the IDA for the emergency repairs because that's the only cost that we've incurred to date.
Mm-hmm.
The next step, Joe, would be, does the IDA board want to proceed with making permanent repairs to the damage that was done, which would include replacing a whole number of windows and double doors, entry doors. And so to do that, first is what's that cost going to be? Okay. And, we would have to put that project out for public bid because of the dollar value that's going to be. This is not going to be cheap. This is going to be a fairly expensive undertaking. And secondly, would NYMER reimburse the IDA for those costs? So at a previous meeting, we discussed this and kind of said, let's first see if NYMER reimburses the IDA for the emergency repairs. Because if they don't reimburse us for the emergency repairs, they're probably not going to reimburse us for permanent repairs. And then the decision is, does the IDA board want to make these repairs, want to incur the costs and get reimbursed to make permanent repairs to a building that you may or may not ever be able to sell? Okay. Or do you just sell the building? If you do find a buyer, would you be better to just sell the building and discount its value, because you have a series of broken doors and windows? Always said, let's reserve discussion on that part of making permanent repairs to a later date. So it's a question that's out there. All right. And I think we'll get to that probably early next year once we get confirmation from NYMER or what they're doing with the emergency repairs.
Jim, if I may just chime in on that real quick. I think certainly the vandalism, without a doubt, obviously, as you mentioned, should be covered. So I would expect that they should pay that, rather quickly and get that settled. As far as improvements to the building, I think depending on how that insurance is written, which is, I think those buildings are written on a depreciated scale, it's probably going to be a tough argument to get to get reimbursed for improvements to that building. In other words, that building, the doors and windows and things that were there were probably not in very good condition to begin with.
They were in excellent condition, Tim. They were top notch, perfect.
So worth a try, but I would say it would be a tough sell to get them to pick up the total cost anyway of improving that property.
Tim, could it be as simple as let's just say there's $50,000 worth of damage and NYMER wants to settle and say, here's $10,000. Could it be as simple as that?
Well, I think it might be, but the typical principle of indemnification is to get you back to where you were prior. So, if they look at it from a replacement cost standpoint, then you could make an argument. But if they're going to factor in depreciation, I doubt they're going to pay for full-scale improvements to that property. But again, it's worth making an argument, and you might get an adjuster to make that recommendation to the company. In my experience, that generally doesn't happen on a building that's written on a depreciated scale like that.
Okay.
That's what we need to ascertain from Nymir, Joe. All right, and so
All right.
taking your assessment there, let's just say we have, it's $100,000 of cost to make all those repairs. Nymir is going to reimburse us 20%, 20,000. The question becomes, does the IDA board then want to take $80,000 out of its pocket and make those repairs? That's the discussion that we'll have to have once we know all the information from Nymir.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
And last thing, just to add, in your budget report, I mentioned about a $500 expense to update the Tryon brochure. Back in February of this year, we talked about updating that brochure because it had some outdated stuff in there. And the board approved spending $3,500 to go ahead and update that brochure. And there were two parts of updating that. One was to retain Room One Designs, who put the brochure together, all the narrative and the graphics in there, to have them update the brochure to the way we wanted it to. The second part was the printing cost, to go and reprint a stockpile of these brochures. So the $500 bill that we approved was the cost to update the brochure itself. And we've received that, but we haven't sent it to the printer yet to go to print, right? And we're holding off on that because, for example, we have an option with Vireo, okay? If Vireo moves forward with that option, the plan that's in the revised brochure of who owns what properties out at Tryon would become outdated already. So we're just going to wait a little while before we send this to the brochure out for reprinting until some of these unknowns on lots and some of these buildings get clarified. So just wanted to mention that. But we do have, and we do have the ability to send that revised brochure individually to anybody who we're trying to market Tryon to. Moving on to new business. As you all know, we received unfortunately, a letter of resignation to the board from Tim, effective December 31, 2020. And so would ask for a motion to accept with regrets Tim's letter of resignation.
I'll make that motion, Jim.
Dave, thank you. Would the entire board like to second that motion?
Yes. Yeah. Tim, you've been a wonderful help, so we will miss you.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And again, it's been a pleasure serving with everyone on the board, and I wish everybody well.
Wish you well with your ventures too. You're doing well.
Thank you.
You're going to
Appreciate
miss
that.
these Tuesday meetings, Tim.
Yes, I am.
2 hours of excitement once a month. How can you go wrong?
Very good. Can we do a roll call vote? Now, Kara, can Tim vote on his own, accepting his own letter of resignation?
Okay, good.
Let's do a roll call vote. Dave Demore,
All right.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
With regrets, aye.
Jane Kelly,
With regret, aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
and Tim, big question, will you vote yes or no?
With regret, aye.
Thank you. And Tim, from my perspective, again, it's been a pleasure. And best of luck with your business, and we'll stay in touch.
Well, thanks, Jim. It's been a pleasure again, and I certainly wouldn't rule out serving in some capacity down the road again. Quite honestly, I'm just at a point in my business life right now where things are a little more than I can handle with some of my outside activities. So just had to make this decision, which is the best for me at this moment. But thank you very much.
Understood. Next item is our annual membership with the New York State Economic Development Council. The annual renewal fee is $850. That's something we've been a member of for a number of years now. And will someone be willing to make a motion to continue that membership and pay that fee?
I make that motion.
Joe Simeon. Is there a second to that motion? Jane Kelly. Do a roll call vote to approve. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Simeon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Next, we have several invoices from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth for legal services provided in 2020. The first is for general legal services that the firm provides to the IDA. The second is the services that they provided as part of the now defunct 1776 hemp project. And the third was for the proposed sale of Building 60 that did not go forward. Those three invoices total $9,666 and would recommend approval of those. And would someone be willing to make that motion?
Got a quick question.
Yep.
The two failed projects, obviously, Kara has done work, her firm has done work on them. In our contracts or dealings with them, is there any way of putting if they don't complete the transaction that they can help with our legal costs? I mean, I just feel that a couple times we've been stung, a couple times with, well, here's $3,000 worth of expenses, and we were dragged out with the hemp project for a long, long time, and now we get a final bill from them. It's kind of tough to take sometimes, Go
ahead, Kara.
I can say that if the company applies for benefits, the application includes language that says that from the time of application through the closing, they're required to pay any legal fees, even if their application gets denied. In cases of these contracts, it's a little bit different because I suppose if you wanted to, you could create some sort of additional application to commence discussions for a particular property and then have that language reference the requirement to pay any of your expenses that come forward. With these lot sales, though, you're generally getting pushback as far as even covering the fee in some cases. But I do know that in some instances, there's people say, okay, if you want to even just start negotiations on this, you're going to have to agree to cover our legal expenses from the beginning. That's really a policy decision for you to draft something like that.
So with Joe, with the 1776 hemp project, it never got to a point where they filed a project application, all right?
I know.
Which is the document that says from this point forward, you cover all IDA expenses.
Right.
Most companies believe that those early discussions, the back and forths, that the economic development entities, shouldn't be charging them to have those types of, introductory, initial discussions. But as Kara said, there are some economic development organizations that, will require companies to, pay for those early upfront expenses. That's not something that the IDA has done in years past. It's something that you can certainly consider doing moving forward, but it would require us to adopt a policy to that extent that we would then, use that policy to charge companies upfront or tell them that they would be responsible to paying for certain expenses that the IDA may incur. But as of right now, we don't have that in effect. Now, I can certainly send that invoice to 1776 Hemp and say, would you be willing to pay us, reimburse us? I don't have a problem doing that. I can't say we're going to get a check, but I don't have a problem sending it to them.
Well, I think, it does not hurt to do that. I mean, same thing, I doubt we're going to get anything, but I think moving forward, I mean, I don't know how we arrived at the 2,362.50 cents, but I think maybe in 2021, we can talk more about having a policy saying if we incur, say, I mean, like I said, as a gentleman's agreement, yes, we'll accept some of the fees in the beginning because that's our introductory to them. We don't want to just say, hey, just by chance, if you even start talking to us, you are liable for legal fees. But I think maybe at $1,000 out of our pocket, they either start signing something or they will say that they're going to have to take on some of the responsibility of legal expenses. So,
let's have those discussions at sometime
Right.
next year, Joe. Fair
Yeah.
enough?
fair enough, yeah.
Okay.
So I approve those paying Kara. I always love paying Kara. Make that motion.
Yep. We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll make
I'll
a second.
Joe Gillis? Let's do a roll call vote to approve the payment of $9,666. Dave Demore?
Aye.
Joe Semio?
Aye.
Todd Rulison?
Aye.
Jane Kelly? Mike Fitzgerald, couldn't hear you, Jane, sorry.
Aye.
Joe Gillis?
Aye.
Tim Munn?
Aye.
Very good. Next item, the annual Speedies discharge permit for Tryon. We received our annual invoice from New York State DEC for this, and the fee is still $110. And it's for us having the right to be able to discharge stormwater from Tryon someplace. We have to do this under a permit from DEC at an annual fee of $110. Would someone be willing to make a motion to authorize paying that bill?
I'll make that motion, Jim.
Thank you,
I'll
Mike.
second.
Jane Kelly with a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Tim Munn,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Dave Demore.
Aye.
Motion's approved. The two quick items before we ask for an executive session. A couple of years ago, input was received through the annual performance questionnaire that's sent out to board members about a desire to have some board training conducted. We started doing that at regular meetings. Recently have gotten away from that because agendas have gotten busy. And so the question back to the board is do you feel there's a need to go back and restart and do some more board training? And if so, is there any particular subject matter that you would like to have addressed? So two-part question. Do you think there's a need for training? And if so, are there particular topics you'd like to be taught about, to hear about?
Jim, I've always thought it was a good idea to have some sort of board, for lack of a better term, training incorporated into our monthly meetings, just because it is difficult for us to pull ourselves out into a specialized retreat. And, I think it helps maintain continuity with our past and our current set of practices that we need to follow. And we haven't had a lot of turnover with our board makeup over the last couple of years. But I'm thinking, there are some things probably that are worth hitting annually. Maybe things like, reminders about our responsibility for ABO reporting, or, occasionally giving us a little bit of history on, the IDA. And again, some of that can be maybe delivered on an as needed basis when it seems reasonable and appropriate to provide a reminder. And then maybe more so thinking about best practices for IDAs. I'm always interested in trying to ensure that, at least the groups that I participate in are pursuing best practices in whatever their endeavor is. And to the extent that we can be in conformance with those best practices that other IDAs are following, and maybe even exceed them, maybe helps us improve our marketability to other regions, or, to businesses and companies that might want to move here. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else?
I'm in agreement that if we can get our meetings a little shorter, if we could have 15 minutes from time to time. I mean, we know in advance what the agenda is going to look like. I mean, if we go into executive, that can take longer, of course, so that's an unknown. But I think next year, if we can just add in some bits and pieces, like Dave said, especially we will have a new member, most likely to replace Tim. It might be helpful for that person to learn a little bit about the background and how we started and go from there. So I think to try to fit it in sometimes.
Personally, I think it's good that we have ongoing training. It's good for both you folks as well as myself, because, as I try to prepare subjects to present to the board, it also helps me in staying fresh and understanding what best practices are and things of that nature. ABO requirements helps me, keep refreshed on those too. So we'll start to try to reincorporate that the best we can, and we'll try to make that a part of subsequent meetings next year. And the last thing was want to just put it out there that at your annual meeting next month, there will be a discussion about what goals you'd like to set for the agency for 2021. So put your goal thinking caps on. Not going to talk about it today, but just a heads up to think about what you individually would like to see the IDA establish as goals for itself for 2021. And again, that'll be a topic we'll talk about at the annual meeting. So with that, I would like to request an executive session to discuss proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities, or sale or exchange of securities held by the public body, but only when publicly would substantially affect the value thereof. Would someone be willing to make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Joe Semyon, is there a second to that?
I'll second it, Jim.
Mike Fitzgerald. Roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly, Mike
Aye.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
We are going into executive session at 9:03 a.m. A motion to go out of executive session at 10:07 a.m.
One more quick question. Sorry. Anything more on that one?
We have a roll call vote to go out of executive. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Okay, we have item 2 for discussion, seeking a motion to reimburse Chris Stenkes the cost of repairing or replacing a tire that was damaged while performing services for the IDA at Tryon with an estimated cost of approximately $250.
I'll make that motion.
Todd Rulison, is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Joe Semyon. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
and Tim Munn.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Second motion, dealing with the proposed creation of Fulton County Sewer District Number 4, which would include taking over ownership of all of the sewer infrastructure that the IDA currently owns at the Tryon Technology Park and deeding that over to the sewer district for them to operate and maintain. And the motion would be to authorize the chairman to enter into an agreement with Fulton County Sewer District Number 4 to reimburse up to $15,000 any capital expense that the sewer district may incur while operating the sewer infrastructure at Tryon.
Should we put a time period in that, Jim? Up to 10 years, or I thought we discussed,
Yeah, if we can
Up to
see
10
when they're
years.
going to build up their own fund.
Up to 10 years or whenever the fund totals $15,000.
okay.
Okay.
Yep,
Would someone
I'll make
it?
the motion.
Joe Gillis, is there a second to that motion?
I second.
I'll second him.
Todd Rulison. Any further discussion? Roll call vote to approve. Dave Demore,
Aye.
Joe Semyon,
Aye.
Todd Rulison,
Aye.
Jane Kelly,
Aye.
Mike Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Joe Gillis,
Aye.
Tim Munn.
Aye.
Our annual meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 12th. The time has been changed to 8 a.m. At which time we will act on a new slate of officers for 2021. And with that, would someone be willing to make a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Who did that? I'm sorry. Dave, I'm sorry, Dave, second. Joe
I'll
Semyon.
second.
I'll let Tim do it.
Yeah, let
Okay,
Tim
Tim.
do it.
I'll
Thank you,
second the
Tim.
motion.
All right.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Merry
you.
Christmas
Jim.
to you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody approve the closing of the meeting?
Yes.
All ayes? Thank you.
Yes.
I'll do that as a roll call vote. The meeting is adjourned at 10:13 a.m. Merry Christmas all. Appreciate your time. We'll be in touch.
Merry Christmas,
See you
everyone.
later. Have a good one.
Thanks.
everybody.